The Zoran Empire had ruled the stars for more than 500 years. Their ships were black like death and their armies marched without fear. They had destroyed planets, broken entire civilizations, and forced thousands of species to bow before them. To the Zorans, fear was a weapon. They believed no one could ever scare them. Commander Vok sat on the bridge of his warship, looking out into space. His red eyes were calm. His soldiers stood silently at their stations. The silence was normal. Zorans were taught not to speak unless ordered. "We are the top of the food chain," Vok said proudly. "Nothing out there can challenge us." One of his officers walked in. "Commander, we received a strange signal." Vok turned. "From where?" "An unmarked planet. Codename, Earth. Not on our maps." Vok frowned. "Unknown?" "Yes." "Commander, the signal is different, not like anything we've seen before. Simple, but strange." It repeated only one word. "What word?" "Welcome." Vok laughed. "They welcome us? Then we'll visit them." The crew also laughed. It was rare for Zorans to find humor, but this moment felt strange, almost funny. Another weak species, trying to be polite. Another planet ready to kneel. The Empire approved a scouting mission. A single small ship was sent to this Earth. It disappeared within hours. No signal, no distress call. Nothing. Vok was surprised but not worried. Maybe a mistake. Maybe a wormhole pulled them in. No matter. The Empire sent a bigger ship, a war-class destroyer. Again, no response. Silence. Now, the High Council grew interested. "What is happening?" they asked. "Is Earth hiding something?" So Vok was given a task: lead a battle fleet to this unknown planet and find the truth. He took 10 warships with him. Each one held weapons strong enough to break moons. The Zorans were confident, always. As the fleet entered Earth's system, everything seemed normal. No ships in sight, no defenses, just one blue planet spinning quietly in space. Vok smirked. "See? Nothing to fear." Suddenly every ship's lights flickered, screens turned black, alarms rang out. "What is this?" Vok shouted. "Unknown interference," an officer said. "We're being jammed." Then a voice echoed through every ship, calm, soft, human. "We see you, do not approach." Vok stood up. "Where is that voice coming from?" "Everywhere," the officer said. "All frequencies." "Trace it," Vok ordered. The crew tried, but nothing worked. Their systems were frozen. The voice didn't return. After that message, just silence. Vok's hands tightened. "Prepare the missiles. If they want to play games, we will answer with fire." But no commands. Worked. The weapons didn't respond. Shields dropped to 0. Engines powered down. "Commander, we are helpless," the officer whispered. Vok refused to believe it. "Impossible. No one can disable our ships." Suddenly, Earth's moon showed movement. A black object appeared, no engine heat, no sound. It floated slowly toward them. "Is that a ship?" someone asked. The object was smooth, black, shaped like a teardrop. It moved like it wasn't, obeying gravity or physics. It just came closer. Vok watched as fear crept into his crew's faces. This wasn't right. This wasn't how enemies behaved. There were no weapons, no threats, just control. Total control. Then the message returned. Same calm human voice. "We warned you." The teardrop object disappeared in a blink. Gone. Just like that. And then, all systems came back online. Vok sat down slowly. No one spoke. No orders were given. For the first time in his life, Commander Vok felt it. Fear. Back in the capital, the Emperor waited for a report. What he received was one short message. "This was a test. You failed." The message came from Earth. No code, no name, just Earth. In that moment, the Zoran Emperor looked at the stars not as a ruler, but as a hunted creature. Something out there had made the mighty Zorans feel small, and they had only seen the beginning. The Zoran Empire had never listened to warnings before. To them, warnings were the last words of weak creatures before they were crushed. But this time felt different. The message from Earth repeated in the Emperor's mind. This was a test. You failed. He did not show fear, but deep inside, something cold had begun to grow. Fear was new to him. He didn't like it. The Emperor called Commander Vok back. "You will return to Earth," he ordered. "But this time, take the Hammer Fleet." The Hammer Fleet was the strongest in the Zoran military. 20 warships, 2 planet breakers, enough firepower to destroy an entire solar system. It had never been used fully before. The Zorans had never needed it. Now they did. Vok prepared quickly. He said nothing to his crew about what happened last time, but the silence in their eyes said everything. They remembered. Every one of them had felt it. The loss of control, the black ship, the calm voice. This time, they would go prepared. As they approached Earth again, their weapons were hot. Shields up, no mistakes, no chances. Every scanner searched the skies, but they found nothing. "Still no ships," the sensor officer said. "Still, no defenses." "Good," Vok said. "This time we won't wait." He raised his hand to launch a warning shot, just a small one toward Earth's upper atmosphere. It would burn bright and show power, but not hit the planet. Before he gave the command, a small human shuttle appeared. It was white, round, and slow. It came alone. No escorts, no weapons. "What is this?" Vok asked. "A joke?" The shuttle stopped near the lead ship. A screen blinked on. A human appeared. She had soft eyes, calm face, no fear. She wore no armor, no suit, just a simple uniform. She looked at the Zorans like they were children playing with fire. She spoke clearly. "Do not attack. This is your last chance." Vok laughed. "Is that a threat?" The human didn't smile. "It's advice." Vok snapped his fingers. "Capture it." Smaller Zoran ships moved toward the shuttle. It didn't move. It just floated. As they reached out to grab it, the shuttle exploded. But it wasn't a normal explosion. There was no fire, no smoke, no blast, just silence. Every ship in the fleet went dark. No lights, no engines, no sound. The Zoran soldiers screamed in the dark. They couldn't see, couldn't move, couldn't speak. Even inside their minds, something felt blocked, like fear itself had wrapped around their brains. Then the voice came again. Same human voice. But now it echoed inside their thoughts. "We warned you. You did not listen. Now you will learn." The lights returned slowly. Screens blinked back to life. Engines restarted, but only at 10%. Shields were gone, weapons offline. They were alive, but useless. Vok sat in his chair, breathing hard. He looked around. His crew, strong Zoran warriors, were shaking. One of them cried softly. Another whispered a word that had never been spoken on a Zoran warship before. "Please." Back on the Zoran homeworld, the Emperor watched everything from a secret channel. He had ordered the transmission to be silent, just video, no sound. But even without hearing the human voice, he saw enough. His best ships, crippled, his strongest soldiers, terrified. Then his own screen went black. Words appeared. "Do not send more fleets. You have met the wall." The Emperor stood frozen. No alarms, no explosions. But this felt worse than any war he had ever seen. His power didn't matter anymore. And then a whisper came, just for him. He didn't know how. No channel was open. It spoke softly in his native tongue. This was mercy. He dropped the communication tablet from his hand. It hit the floor with a cold sound. In that moment, he realized something terrible. The humans hadn't fought yet. They were just talking. And talking was already enough to make the Zoran Empire bleed. He whispered to himself, "What are they?" And far out in space above the quiet blue planet called Earth, something moved again. Another black ship, bigger this time, watching, waiting. For the first time in 500 years, fear moved like smoke through the Zoran Empire. Soldiers whispered the word humans when they thought no one was listening. Commanders stared at the stars for hours, saying nothing. The silence inside, warships felt heavy, like the air was full of danger. Every Zoran knew something terrible had changed. Commander Vok sat in the great hall of the War Council. He had not spoken since returning from Earth. His face, once proud and strong, looked pale and tired. Around him, other commanders shouted at each other. "This is a trick," one said. "They used some kind of strange technology. They made our fleet powerless," another shouted. "We couldn't even move. They're not gods. We're the Zoran Empire. We crush enemies. Then why are we afraid?" That question made the room go quiet. The Emperor sat on his black throne, silent. His red eyes moved slowly from one face to another. Then he stood. "Enough. We will not be ruled by fear." He looked at Vok. "You will not speak of this outside, this room. The people must not know." But it was too late. The fear had already spread. On the outer planets, Zoran civilians stopped sending tribute. Governors demanded answers. Ships reported that some small colonies refused to follow orders. Zoran control was slipping. In a distant barracks, two young Zoran soldiers sat together. "Do you think it's true?" one whispered. "That humans destroyed the Hammer fleet?" The other nodded. "My cousin was on one of those ships. He came back, but he won't speak. Just stares at the wall." What did he see? Something worse than war. The High Council grew desperate. Some said to pull back and hide. Others screamed for revenge. At last they agreed on one thing. They would send a message. A show of power. The Emperor gave the order. Send the Devourer. The Devourer was the Empire's most feared ship. It was not just a weapon. It was death itself. 5 kilometers long, covered in dark metal, powered by black matter. It had never failed. "We will make the humans fear us," the Emperor said. "They must know who rules the stars." The Devourer jumped to Earth's solar system. It arrived alone. There was no warning, no diplomacy, just power. But when it reached orbit, there was nothing. No human ships, no defenses. Only the quiet blue planet below. The Zoran commander on the Devourer gave the order to lock weapons. Then something strange happened. Nothing worked. Again. Lights dimmed. Screens blinked. The crew felt heavy, like gravity had doubled. And then, through the blackness, a shape appeared. A single ship. Human. But it didn't look like a ship. It looked like a shadow wrapped in light. It didn't move. It didn't need to. One by one, Zoran crew members collapsed to the floor. Not hurt, but overwhelmed. Their minds filled with thoughts that were not their own. Memories, feelings, visions. They saw human wars, centuries of fire and pain. Not victories, not pride, just survival. Humanity had climbed out of its own destruction. Again and again. They didn't win because they were powerful. They won because they refused to die. Then came the voice. You think fear makes you strong, but you never truly knew fear. Until now. The black ship sent no weapon, no missile, no beam. And yet, when the Empire tried to contact the Devourer, there was no answer. Gone. Destroyed? No. Worse. Taken. 2 days later, a video appeared in every part of the Zoran Empire. No one knew how it was sent. It just appeared, on screens, on walls, even in their minds. It showed the Devourer, still floating in space, and humans, walking calmly through its halls. Doors opened before them. Zoran weapons melted into dust. The great engine sat cold and dead. The human leader turned to the camera. He looked tired, not angry, just disappointed. He spoke one sentence. This was not war. This was a message. Next time, we will not be gentle. In the Emperor's chamber, silence returned. He watched the video 10 times. His hands trembled. This is impossible, he whispered. We are the rulers of the stars. But his words felt empty now. He turned to his advisor. What do they want? Why don't they kill us? The advisor did not answer. He was staring at the stars through the palace window. Then quietly he said, maybe they already did. Because deep down, they all knew. The Empire hadn't just lost ships. It had lost something far more dangerous. Its pride, its control, its fearlessness. The Zorans had never feared anything. Until now. In the cold halls of the Zoran palace, shadows stretched longer than before. The Empire still ruled thousands of worlds, but it no longer felt like a ruler. It felt like prey hiding in plain sight. The Emperor sat in silence, watching the stars. His claws tapped on the stone armrest. He had not slept in many nights. No, dreams came to him. Only the memory of the calm human voice. This was not war. This was a message. He called for his top scientists, spies, and strategists. Tell me everything about humans, he demanded. But there was little to tell. Earth had never been part of the known star maps. It had no empire, no colonies, no history of galactic war. In the past, Zoran scouts had skipped it. Too small, they said. Too simple. Now that planet haunted them. What makes them powerful? The Emperor asked. A scientist answered, we don't know. How can we not know? No one has ever returned with a memory we can read. Human ships block our scans. Their tech is not stronger than ours. It is different. Another advisor spoke carefully. They see things we don't. They move like shadows. Our best sensors can't detect them. Our strongest minds can't predict them. They are not stronger, sire. They are stranger. That word, stranger, made the Emperor uneasy. Across the Empire, strange things were happening. On planet Ruzik, a Zoran military outpost disappeared overnight. No sounds, no alerts. When reinforcements arrived, they found only deep circles, burned into the ground, and the word listen carved into stone. On Station Vexer, a group of high-ranking Zoran officers began refusing orders. They said they heard voices in their dreams, human voices. The officers were locked away, but even the guards avoided their cells. At the edge of Zoran space, pirate fleets stopped moving. They sent out this simple message before falling silent. They are watching. Something was spreading. Fear, confusion, doubt, and at the center of it all, humans. The Emperor made a decision. If we cannot defeat them in the stars, he said, we will study them, capture one, just one. We must learn what they are. The mission was given to an elite Zoran hunter, Kale. He had caught creatures from black holes. He had tracked monsters through dark gas clouds. He had never failed. You must not kill, the Emperor warned. You must bring it back alive. Kyle nodded once. As you command. He left with a ship that could vanish from sensors, quiet engines, silent weapons, hidden shields. He landed on Earth in the middle of a dark forest. No cities, no satellites, no humans nearby, at least that's what he thought. Kyle moved through the trees like a ghost. His mask showed heat, sound, movement. Everything was calm. Then a rock hit his helmet, hard. He spun around, but no one was there. A second rock came from behind, fast and sharp. It hit his shoulder. He raised his weapon, but nothing appeared on the scanner. Then a voice whispered from above, "This is not your forest." Kyle fired at the trees. Leaves burned, branches cracked. Silence. He waited. Then the forest shifted. Birds flew away in a single wave. The wind stopped. The air grew thick. Kyle turned slowly. A human stood 10, Steps away, young, calm, no armor, no weapons, just standing. Kale raised his weapon. The human didn't move. "Don't," the human said. Kale hesitated. Then the gun in his hand turned red. Too hot to hold. It melted into ash. He stepped back in shock. "How?" The human tilted his head. "Why? Do you fear us?" Kale growled. "We don't." "Then why did your empire send you alone?" Kale said nothing. The human stepped forward. "You came to take one of us, but you don't understand." "What don't we understand?" The human's eyes changed, glowing white for a second. "We are not one. We are many." Suddenly, hundreds of voices echoed through the trees, all speaking at once. "We are pain. We are survival. We are rage. We are love. We are what you tried to destroy in others, but you can't destroy us." Kyle dropped to his knees. His mind shook. He felt their thoughts inside him, a wave of sadness, a storm of fury, a fire of memory. He saw Earth's past, wars, disasters, betrayals. But he also saw something stronger. Hope. Hope that survived even when everything burned. Then silence. The human was gone. Kyle stood alone in the forest. But he wasn't the same. He returned to his ship, shaking. For the first time in his life, he didn't finish a mission. Back on the Zoran capital, the Emperor listened to Kale's report. Kale spoke only 2 words. "Don't follow them." And then he resigned. The Emperor stared into the darkness of his throne room. They had sent their best hunter, and now he too was afraid. The human problem wasn't just a mystery. It was a mirror. And what the Zorans saw in that mirror was their end. Slow, quiet, patient, and very human. The Zoran Empire was made of steel, fire, and fear. But now cracks were showing, small at first, then growing. Whole planets stopped sending tribute. Military officers argued in public. Some colonies locked their gates and said, "We are no longer Zoran." No one said it out loud, but everyone knew the truth. It started with the humans. The Emperor tried to keep control. He sent ships to quiet the unrest. He made speeches about strength, unity, and loyalty. But the words felt weak now. Even his voice no longer held the same power. In the shadows, secret messages spread. "Don't fear the humans. Learn from them. We've ruled by fear long enough." They broke the Hammer Fleet with a whisper. The Emperor held a meeting with the High Council. The war ministers, science lords, and shadow leaders were all present. One counselor stood and said, "We must stop this human threat now, before it grows stronger." Another counselor shook his head. "We've already tried. We failed. We don't understand them." A third counselor leaned forward. "Maybe they are not enemies. Maybe they are something else. A warning. A lesson." "Lesson?" the Emperor barked. "We do not take lessons from prey." But even as he said it, he knew things had changed. The Empire was powerful, yes, but the fear that had built it was now turning inward. The same fear that made others kneel was now making the Zorans tremble. In a quiet sector of space, far from the palace, a Zoran scientist named Dravik had been secretly studying human data. He worked alone, using stolen fragments from the Devourer's final records. What he found shocked him. Emotion-based memory coding, collective reaction timing, mental resilience higher than any known species. He stared at the screen. They feel everything all the time, and that makes them stronger. Zorans did not value emotion. They saw it as weakness, but humans used it like armor. Their fear made them alert. Their pain made them wise. Their love made them dangerous. Dravik sent a secret report to the Emperor. "Humans do not fight with technology, they fight with meaning. That is what makes them unstoppable." The Emperor crushed the message with his claw and threw it aside. He didn't want meaning, he wanted control. So he gave one last order. "Bring me a human, alive. I will speak to it myself." His spies sent small teams across space. Most never returned. One team did. They brought back a human girl. She was young, maybe 16 in Earth years. No weapons, no armor, just calm eyes and quiet breath. She said her name was Mira. The Emperor had her brought to the Grand Throne Hall. He sat tall, armored in black and gold. Hundreds of guards lined the walls, weapons ready. But Mira didn't look afraid. She stood straight and looked the Emperor in the eye. He leaned forward. "You are not like us. You are soft, small, and yet you made my empire shake." "Why?" She smiled gently. "You already know why. That's why you're asking." He growled. "Do not play games." "I'm not," she said softly. "You think your empire is strong, but it was only strong because others believed it was. When that belief broke, the empire started to fall. That's not because of us, it's because of you." The Emperor rose from his throne. "You are nothing." Mira didn't flinch. "I'm just a mirror. You don't like what you see." The room went silent. The Emperor raised his hand. But then, he stopped. His fingers shook, because somewhere deep inside he knew she was right. For centuries they had crushed, burned, and ruled. But they never asked why. They never built, only broke. Now that breaking had turned back on them. He looked at Mira again. "What do you want?" he asked, voice low. "We don't want your empire," she said. "We want it to stop hurting others." "And if I refuse?" She looked sad. "Then it will end. With or without us." The Emperor sat back down, suddenly tired. "You're not warriors." "No," Mira said. "We're survivors." And somehow that felt more powerful than any weapon. He waved his hand. "Take her away." But as the guards moved, Mira said one last thing. "You still have a choice." That night the Emperor didn't sleep. He stood at the highest tower, staring at the stars. For the first time in his life, he felt truly alone. Not because he had lost control, but because someone had finally shown him what he truly was. And that was the scariest truth of all. Not that the humans were coming, but that they didn't need to. The empire was already crumbling, and all it took was one small spark. Across the Zoran Empire, silence began to break. It started slowly, like quiet winds before a storm. On one colony world, a group of workers refused to kneel before the governor. On another, Zoran soldiers laid down their weapons and walked away. A message spread among them, passed in whispers. "We are not afraid anymore." The message had no name, no flag, no leader. But everyone knew where it came from. The humans. In a small mining colony on planet Zekros, a young Zoran named Vera sat with her grandfather. He had once been a proud warrior. His armor still hung on the wall, dusty and broken. "Grandfather," Vera asked, "were you afraid when you saw the humans?" He nodded. "Not at first. We thought they were nothing, but then I saw their eyes, and I knew." "Knew what?" "That we were the ones living in a cage, and they were already free. All across the empire, people were changing, not because the humans ordered it, but because the fear that once held the Zorans together had started to fall apart. In secret places, groups gathered. Some wanted peace, some wanted revenge, some just wanted truth. On a moon near the empire's core, a rebel broadcast began. A masked Zoran stood in front of a burning Zoran flag. "The empire says strength is everything," the voice said. "But what did strength give us? Empty victories, burned worlds, broken minds. We feared no one until the humans came, and we feared them not because they destroyed us, but because they didn't. They didn't want to rule. They wanted to stop the pain, and that's what made them stronger than us." The broadcast ended with 2 words: "Wake up." The Emperor saw the message. He roared in anger. "Find them, silence them." But no matter how many rebels he arrested, more appeared. They were everywhere, not fighting with weapons, but with ideas, words, Hope, something the Empire had never understood. In the palace, the Emperor walked alone. His guards watched him with careful eyes. His advisors no longer spoke with pride. He stopped in front of the dark glass wall that looked over the stars. "They're slipping through our fingers," he muttered, "like smoke." A shadow stepped into the room. It was Kyle, the hunter who had once gone to Earth and returned, changed. "You sent for me?" Kyle asked. The Emperor didn't turn. "Tell me the truth. What did you see when you met the human?" Kale was silent for a long time. Then, he said, "I saw a storm wrapped in silence. They don't want to destroy us, but they won't let us keep destroying others. Can we stop them?" "No," Kale said quietly, "because they already won." The Emperor spun around. "How? We still have the fleet, the soldiers, the control." "No," Kyle said, interrupting him. "We had fear. That's what held the Empire together. Now fear belongs to them, and hope is spreading here." The Emperor shook his head. "Hope is weakness." Kale stepped forward. "Hope is fuel. It makes people stand when fear says kneel, and now even your own people are standing." Outside, the rebellion grew stronger. Zorans stopped fearing punishment, they stopped hiding their voices. Even some military commanders switched sides. And the humans? They didn't send more ships. No new attacks, no invasions. Just one message. It appeared on every screen in every part of the Empire, written in simple words. "We are not your enemy, but we will not let you hurt anyone else." On a desert world, a Zoran soldier read that message and cried. He wasn't sure why. But for the first time in his life, he didn't feel alone. Back in the palace, the Emperor gave one final command. "Prepare the final protocol." The generals froze. "You mean?" "Yes, the Black Core. If we cannot rule, we will burn everything, Earth first." But before they could carry it out, every control system shut down. Screens went black. Alarms froze. Then, the same human voice echoed in the throne room. "You still don't understand." A light appeared, floating in the center of the room. It took the shape of Mira, the human girl. "You think power is control, but real power is knowing when to let go." The lights came back. The systems restarted, but the Black Core was gone, disabled, removed. The Emperor fell to his knees. The Empire had lost everything. Not because of a battle, not because of an invasion, but because people started thinking for themselves. And once that fire started, it could never be put out. Across the stars, one truth burned in every heart. The humans were not gods, not devils, not monsters. They were something far more dangerous. A reminder. A reminder of what happens when courage rises, and fear finally breaks. The Zoran Empire was no longer the same. The tall statues of warlords had fallen. The flags of the Empire, once raised high over every planet, now lay in dust. People no longer whispered in fear. They spoke with clear voices, louder every day. And above it all, the stars looked brighter. In the deep space between worlds, human ships floated silently. They did not fire. They did not speak. They only watched, waiting to see what the Zorans would choose next. In the grand hall of the ruined Zoran palace, the Emperor stood alone. His golden armor was scratched and dark. His crown sat on the floor, cold and forgotten. Kyle, the former hunter, walked in. "It's over," Kale said. The Emperor stared out the shattered windows. "We were kings." Kale shook his head. "No, we were prisoners, chained by our own fear." The Emperor turned. "And now? What are we?" Kale looked up at the stars. "Now, we get to choose." All over the galaxy, change had already begun. On planet Veltra, Zoran teachers started a new school, not to train warriors but to teach history, art, and peace. On the icy moon of Brannock, former soldiers helped rebuild towns they once destroyed. Even in space stations where hatred had once burned, Humans and Zorans now sat at the same table. They did not always agree. They didn't always understand each other. But they talked, and that was enough. On Earth, Mira stood on a quiet beach watching waves crash gently against the shore. A Zoran child stood beside her, one of the first brought to live among humans. "Are we still enemies?" the child asked. Mira smiled. "Only if you choose to be." The child looked confused. "But the Empire tried to destroy you." "We remember," Mira said, "but we also remember what came after." "What came after?" Mira knelt down. "You came." Back on the Io, Zoran capital, a new council formed. No more emperors, no more thrones, just voices from every world. Equal, honest, unsure, but willing. And they had only one rule: never forget. Never forget what power did when it had no heart. Never forget what fear can build and what it can destroy. And never forget who taught them that strength was not control but choice. In a quiet ceremony, the last battle banner of the Zoran Empire was folded and sealed in a glass case. A message was carved beneath it. "May we never raise this again." Some Zorans struggled to accept the new world. Some still held anger in their hearts, but slowly even they began to soften. Because in this world there was no ruler forcing them, no fear chasing them, only time and truth. One evening a signal came to Earth. It was short. From a rebuilt Zoran station. "We are ready to learn." Humans answered with a smile. "We're ready to teach." Trade began. Ideas flowed, technology shared, cultures mixed. A human child learned to fly a Zoran glider. A Zoran elder learned to grow human flowers. Small things, but powerful. Years passed. The stars grew quiet again, but not with fear, with peace. Some called it the Great Shift. Others called it the Silent Revolution. But the humans had no name for it. Because to them, it wasn't new. It was always inside them. That fire, that refusal to kneel, that deep burning hope. They didn't bring war. They brought a mirror. And in that mirror, the Zorans finally saw themselves. Not monsters, not rulers, just people, lost in the dark, looking for light. And they found it. Not in weapons, not in ships, but in a simple truth. No species ever scared us, until we met one that didn't want to. Now the Zorans fly their own ships to Earth, not to conquer, but to connect. And the humans? They never say, "We won." They simply say, "We remembered who we are, and helped others remember too." Above all, the stars still shine, not as prizes to be claimed, but as promises of what comes next, of what's possible, and of what happens when the strongest force in the galaxy isn't power, it's compassion,